Marcus Chun stood at the window of his transport ship and watched the blue crystal planet grow larger. Zephyr Prime looked beautiful from space. The whole planet seemed to glow with a soft blue light. Marcus had never seen anything like it in his 30 years of life. He was nervous. Very nervous. Earth had sent him here as their first ambassador to the Triumvirate Council. The Triumvirate was a group of 3 powerful alien races that controlled most of this part of the galaxy. If Marcus could make a good deal with them, Earth would finally have a chance to join the galactic community. The problem was that most aliens thought humans were stupid. They had good reasons to think this. Humans could not read minds like the Zephyrians. They could not change their body chemistry to communicate like the Vorthan. They could not live for thousands of years like the crystalline elders. To most aliens, humans were just another primitive species that would probably destroy themselves in a few hundred years. Thought Marcus touched the translation device on his ear. It would help him understand the alien languages, but it could not help him understand their cultures. He had studied for months, but he still felt unprepared. The ship landed with a soft bump. Marcus took a deep breath and walked to the exit. The air outside was clean and smelled like flowers. The spaceport was made of the same blue crystal as everything else on the planet. It was beautiful, but it felt cold. A group of aliens waited for him. The Zephyrians looked like tall humans, but their skin was covered in small crystal plates that caught the light. Their eyes glowed with a soft blue color. The Vorthan delegation looked like walking trees with too many arms. The crystalline elders looked like living rocks that somehow moved and talked. "Welcome, human ambassador," said the lead Zephyrian. His voice was flat and emotionless. "I am High Counselor Thyron. We will escort you to the council chambers." Marcus smiled and nodded. "Thank you. I am honored to be here." The aliens did not smile back. Marcus had read that most alien species did not use facial expressions the way humans did. He tried to remember to keep his face neutral. They walked through the crystal halls of the government building. Marcus saw other Zephyrians moving around, but something seemed strange. They all moved in perfect coordination, like they were dancing to music only they could hear. They never bumped into each other or got in each other's way. "How do you all coordinate so well?" Marcus asked. "We share thoughts through telepathy," Thyron explained. "It is much more efficient than your primitive verbal communication. We know what others are thinking and feeling at all times." Marcus nodded. He had read about this, but seeing it was different. It was impressive, but also a little scary. He was glad humans could not read minds. He liked having private thoughts. They entered a large room with a circular table. Representatives from all 3 species sat around it. Marcus took his assigned seat and looked around. Everyone was staring at him with expressions he could not read. "Let us begin," said Thyron. "The Triumvirate Council has agreed to consider Earth's application for membership. However, we must first establish trade agreements and cultural exchange protocols." The meeting started. Marcus quickly realized he was in trouble. The aliens spoke very fast and seemed to understand each other without words. They would look at each other for a few seconds, then nod and move on to the next topic. Marcus felt like he was watching a movie with no sound. "Excuse me," Marcus said during a pause. "Could you explain the last proposal more slowly? I want to make sure I understand." The aliens looked at each other. Marcus could feel their annoyance, even though their faces showed nothing. "The proposal is simple," said a Vorthan representative. "We offer technology in exchange for Earth's mineral resources. The exchange rate is based on standard galactic values." "What are the standard galactic values?" Marcus asked. There was a long silence. Finally, Thyron spoke. "All civilized species know the standard values. They are determined by the Council of Economic Coordination." "I see," Marcus said. Could I get a copy of these standard values to review? More silence. Marcus was starting to sweat. This was not going well. Then he noticed something. In the corner of the room sat a female Zephyrian who had not spoken. Unlike the others, she seemed to be watching Marcus with real interest. Her crystal plates were a slightly different color, more silver than blue. When their eyes met, she quickly looked away. Who was the representative in the corner? Marcus asked. Princess Lirelei, Thyron said. His voice became even more flat. She observes council meetings to learn about diplomacy. Marcus looked at her again. She was beautiful, but there was something sad about her. She sat alone while the other Zephyrians seemed to be in constant mental contact with each other. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. Marcus felt lost most of the time. The aliens seemed to make decisions instantly, while he needed time to think and ask questions. Every time he asked for clarification, they became more impatient. Finally, Thyron called for a recess. We will continue tomorrow, he announced. Perhaps the human representative needs time to prepare. The way he said, prepare, made it clear he thought Marcus was too stupid to keep up. As the other aliens filed out of the room, Marcus noticed that Princess Lirelei walked alone. The other Zephyrians moved in their coordinated groups, but she moved by herself. She seemed to hesitate at the door, then turned back. Ambassador Chun, she said quietly. May I speak with you? Marcus was surprised. Her voice sounded different from the other Zephyrians. It had more emotion in it. Of course, Your Highness, Marcus replied. She walked closer. Up close, Marcus could see that her crystal plates were not just a different color. They seemed to move differently too. They shifted and changed like they were responding to her emotions. I wanted to apologize for today's meeting, she said. My people can be difficult to understand. We communicate in ways that may seem strange to humans. Thank you, Marcus said. I have to admit I felt pretty lost in there. Lirelei smiled slightly. It was the first real expression Marcus had seen from any Zephyrian. Would you like me to explain some of our customs? She asked. I have time before the evening meal. Marcus nodded eagerly. That would be incredibly helpful. As they sat down to talk, Marcus had no idea that this conversation would change both of their lives forever. Marcus woke up to the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed in his guest room at the Zephyrian Palace. He jumped out of bed and grabbed his clothes. Something was very wrong. The night before, Princess Lirelei had spent 3 hours explaining Zephyrian culture to him. She was different from the other aliens he had met. She actually listened when he talked and seemed genuinely interested in human customs. Most importantly, she had warned him about something. There are some Zephyrians who do not want aliens in our society, she had told him quietly. They call themselves the Purifiers. They believe that mixing with other species makes us weak. Now, as Marcus ran into the hallway, he wondered if the Purifiers were behind these alarms. The crystal halls were full of panicking aliens. Zephyrians ran in all directions, their usual coordination completely broken. Marcus saw Vorthan delegates trying to communicate through chemical signals, but their sent messages were confused and contradictory. Even the normally calm crystalline elders seemed agitated. Marcus found Princess Lirelei near the council chambers. She was standing alone while other Zephyrians huddled together in telepathic groups. What's happening? Marcus asked. Bombs, Lirelei said. Her crystal plates were shifting rapidly, changing from silver to dark blue. Someone planted explosives throughout the building. The security systems detected them just in time. Are we evacuating? The others are trying to, Lirelei said. But there's a problem. The bombs are positioned to block all the main exits. Whoever did this wanted to trap us inside. Marcus looked around the chaotic hallway. The aliens were all following their emergency protocols, but their protocols did not seem to be working. The Zephyrians were trying to coordinate through telepathy, but there were too many panicked thoughts. The Vorthans were releasing so many chemical signals that the air was becoming toxic. The crystalline elders were moving too slowly to be helpful. "We need to think differently," Marcus said. "Can you show me the building's layout?" Lirelei touched a crystal panel on the wall. A three-dimensional map appeared in the air. Marcus studied it carefully. He was used to looking at military maps from his time in Earth's Space Force. There, Marcus pointed to a section of the map. "The service tunnels. They're too small for the main evacuation, but we could use them to get a small team to the bomb locations." "The service tunnels are not designed for people," Lirelei said. "They are only for maintenance robots. Humans are good at crawling through small spaces," Marcus said with a grin. "We used to live in caves." "How many bombs are there?" 12, Lirelei said. "But the bomb disposal teams cannot reach them because of the blocked exits." Marcus studied the map again. His brain worked differently from the aliens around him. They saw problems and tried to solve them with their existing systems. Marcus saw problems and tried to find completely new solutions. "What if we don't wait for the bomb disposal teams?" Marcus asked. "What if we disable the bombs ourselves?" "That is impossible," Lirelei said. "None of us know how to disarm explosive devices." "Maybe we don't need to disarm them," Marcus said. "Maybe we just need to move them." He explained his plan quickly. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might work. The idea was to use the service tunnels to reach the bombs, then carry them to safe areas where they could explode without killing anyone. "You would risk your life for people you barely know?" Lirelei asked. "Of course," Marcus said. "Wouldn't you?" Lirelei stared at him for a long moment. In Zephyrian society, individuals were expected to follow group decisions. Personal heroics were considered selfish and dangerous. "I will help you," she said finally. They crawled into the first service tunnel. It was dark and cramped. Marcus led the way because humans were better at moving in tight spaces. Lirelei followed, using her crystal plates to provide light. "Why are you helping me?" Marcus asked as they crawled. "Because your plan might work," Lirelei said. "And because I am tired of always following what others think is best." They reached the first bomb. It was a small metal device attached to a support beam. Marcus carefully lifted it and handed it back to Lirelei. They crawled as fast as they could to an empty storage room and left the bomb there. 11 more, Marcus said. They worked as a team. Marcus used his human flexibility to reach difficult spots. Lirelei used her knowledge of the building to find the fastest routes. Most importantly, they made decisions quickly without needing to consult committees or follow protocols by the time they moved the fourth bomb. Other aliens started to notice what they were doing. A group of Zephyrian security officers tried to stop them. "This is not authorized," the security chief said. "You must wait for proper bomb disposal procedures." "Your procedures aren't working," Marcus said politely. "People are going to die if we wait." "The human is correct," Lirelei said. Marcus was surprised to hear her contradict another Zephyrian so directly. "We have already safely removed 4 devices. We should continue." The security chief looked confused. Princess Liraya was technically his superior, but she was also considered defective because of her limited telepathy. He did not know which protocol to follow. While he hesitated, Marcus and Lirelei went back to work. They moved 8 more bombs before the first one exploded. Even in the storage room, the blast shook the entire building. But no one was hurt. 2 minutes until the next explosion, Lirelei announced. "We need to reach the last 4 bombs." They ran through the halls. Other aliens had finally started to help, but they moved slowly and carefully. Marcus grabbed the 11th bomb just as the second explosion shook the building. Lirelei reached the 12th bomb at the same time. They ran to the final storage area and dropped both bombs. 30 seconds later, the last explosions echoed through the building. When the dust settled, everyone was alive. The building was damaged but not destroyed. Marcus and Lirelei sat on the floor, breathing hard and covered in dust. "We did it," Marcus said. "Yes," Lirelei replied. "We did." For the first time since Marcus had arrived, he saw real emotion on an alien's face. Lirelei was smiling. Not the careful, diplomatic smile he had seen before, but a genuine expression of joy and relief. "Thank you," she said. "You saved everyone." "We saved everyone," Marcus corrected. "I could not have done it without you." Later, they learned that the Purifiers had planned the attack to kill Marcus and Lirelei specifically. The bombs had been positioned to trap the defective representatives in the building, while the pure aliens escaped, but the plan had failed because a human and a defective, Zephyrian, had worked together to save everyone. This unexpected partnership was about to change everything. 3 days after the bomb attack, Marcus and Lirelei met in the palace garden. The Triumvirate Council had asked them to investigate the Purifiers together. Marcus was surprised by this request. "Why do they want us to work together?" Marcus asked. "I thought they considered both of us problematic." Lirelei picked a blue flower from a crystal tree. Her plate shifted to match the flower's color. "Because we succeeded where their normal procedures failed. They do not understand how, but they cannot ignore the results." The garden was beautiful and peaceful. Crystal trees grew in perfect rows, and the paths were made of smooth, glowing stones. Everything was organized and symmetrical. It was very different from Earth gardens, which were wild and unpredictable. "Do you like gardens on your world?" Lirelei asked. Marcus smiled. "Earth gardens are messier than this. We let plants grow where they want. We think the imperfect shapes make them more beautiful." "That sounds chaotic," Lirelei said, but she sounded curious rather than disapproving. "Controlled chaos," Marcus explained. "Humans like things that are a little unpredictable. It makes life more interesting." They walked to a security station where they could access information about the bombing. The Zephyrian investigators had collected lots of data, but they were having trouble making sense of it. Marcus looked at the evidence files. There were reports from dozens of witnesses, chemical analysis of the bomb components, and detailed maps of the explosion sites. The Zephyrian method was very thorough, but it focused on collecting information rather than understanding patterns. "What do you see?" Lirelei asked. Marcus studied the data for several minutes. He was not looking for specific facts. Instead, he was trying to understand the bigger picture. "The bombs were not just meant to kill us," Marcus said. "Look at the locations. They were placed to make the building collapse in a specific way." "What do you mean?" Marcus used his finger to trace patterns on the holographic display. If all 12 bombs had exploded at the same time, the building would have fallen toward the diplomatic quarter. It would have destroyed the embassies of 6 different species. Lirelei's crystal plates turned pale. That would have started a war. Exactly. The Purifiers were not just trying to kill us. They wanted to destroy diplomatic relations between all the species. This was typical human thinking. Humans were good at seeing connections that were not obvious. They could look at complicated situations and understand the hidden motivations behind them. Lirelei was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "There is something I need to tell you about myself." She led Marcus to a private room where they could not be overheard. Her crystal plates were shifting rapidly, showing that she was nervous. "My people think I am defective because my telepathy is weak," Lirelei said. "But that is not exactly true. My telepathy is different." "Different how?" "Normal Zephyrians can share thoughts, but they only experience the logical, organized parts of other minds. I can sense the emotions underneath the thoughts. I can feel what people really believe, not just what they think they should believe. Marcus was fascinated. That sounds incredibly useful. Why do your people consider it a defect? Because emotions are considered primitive and unreliable. My people value logic and control above all else. They think emotions make us weak. But emotions make you stronger, Marcus said. They help you understand what really matters to people. Lirelei stared at him. Do you really believe that? Of course. Emotions are what drive humans to do great things. Love, hope, anger, and injustice. These feelings motivate us to fight for what we believe in, even when logic says you should give up. Especially then, Marcus said with a smile. Humans are very good at doing impossible things when we care enough. Lirelei used her emotional telepathy to scan the security recordings from the bombing. Within an hour, she had identified 3 Zephyrians whose emotional patterns showed they were lying in their witness statements. They knew about the attack in advance, Lirelei said. Their fear was mixed with guilt and anticipation. They were excited about something terrible happening. Marcus and Lirelei tracked down the 3 suspects. Using human interrogation techniques combined with Lirelei's emotional sensing, they quickly got confessions. The truth was worse than they had expected. The Purifiers were not just Zephyrian extremists. They were a secret organization with members from all 3 triumvirate species. Their goal was to prevent any new species from joining the galactic community. They are afraid, Lirelei explained after sensing the emotions of the captured terrorists. They think new species will bring chaos and unpredictability. They want to keep the galaxy orderly and controlled. So they are trying to start a war to prove that cooperation is impossible, Marcus said. That's twisted logic. Fear makes people do illogical things, Lirelei said. Even species that claim to value logic above all else. As they worked together over the following days, Marcus began to understand how special Lirelei was. Her emotional telepathy gave her insights that no other alien possessed. But more than that, she was brave and intelligent and kind. Marcus told her about human concepts that most aliens found confusing. He explained how humans chose to love people despite their flaws. He described how humans valued loyalty and friendship over practical advantages. On my world, when someone is different or damaged, we do not cast them out, Marcus said. We help them find ways to use their differences as strengths. But what if their differences make them less useful to society? Lirelei asked. Then maybe society needs to change, Marcus said. Some of humanity's greatest achievements came from people who were considered defective or strange by their contemporaries. Lirelei was fascinated by this idea. In Zephyrian society, individuals were expected to fit perfectly into predetermined roles. The concept that society should adapt to accommodate different types of people was revolutionary. During their investigation, Marcus demonstrated many uniquely human traits. When they hit dead ends, he refused to give up and found new approaches. When they faced dangerous situations, he improvised solutions using whatever materials were available. When they met resistance from the authorities, he used humor and charm to win them over. Most importantly, Marcus treated Lirelei as an equal partner. He listened to her ideas and respected her abilities. He never made her feel defective or broken. Why are you so kind to me? Lirelei asked one evening as they reviewed their findings. Because you are an amazing person, Marcus said simply. You see things others cannot see. You think in ways that help solve problems. You are brave and intelligent, and you care about doing the right thing. But I am damaged, Lirelei said. You are not damaged, Marcus replied firmly. You are different. And different can be wonderful. For the first time in her life, Lirelei began to believe that maybe her differences were not flaws to be hidden, but gifts to be celebrated. The investigation was over. Marcus and Lirelei had exposed the Purifier conspiracy and arrested its leaders. The evidence showed that extremists from all three triumvirate species had worked together to prevent new civilizations from joining the galactic community. The Triumvirate Council was grateful. They held a ceremony to honor Marcus as a hero. Representatives from dozens of species attended. Everyone wanted to meet the human who had saved the diplomatic summit. Marcus stood in the great hall wearing his best formal uniform. The crystal walls reflected the lights from hundreds of different alien technologies. It was beautiful and impressive, but Marcus felt uncomfortable with all the attention. High Counselor Thyron approached him with several other important aliens. Ambassador Chen, Thyron said, the Council has decided to offer Earth full membership in the Triumvirate. This is a great honor. Thank you, Marcus replied. Earth will be honored to join. There is more, Thyron continued. Several species have expressed interest in formal alliances with humanity. These would be sealed through diplomatic marriages. Marcus had been expecting this. In galactic society, political marriages were common. They created bonds between civilizations that could last for centuries. The Vorthan Collective offers their prime daughter, Thyron said. She is genetically perfect and has been trained in 17 forms of diplomatic protocol. The Crystalline Elders offer their youngest shard bearer. She possesses 3,000 years of accumulated wisdom. The Aquan Federation offers their fleet commander, who controls 40 star systems. Each offer was incredibly generous. Any of these marriages would give Earth tremendous political and economic advantages. Marcus would become one of the most powerful humans in the galaxy. These are generous offers, Marcus said carefully. I will need time to consider them. Of course, Thyron said, but do not take too long. Such opportunities may not come again. After the ceremony, Marcus walked alone through the palace gardens. He needed to think. The marriage offers would secure Earth's future in the galactic community. His parents and the Earth government would be thrilled. He would be doing his duty to his entire species, but he did not want any of those marriages. Over the past weeks, he had fallen in love with Princess Lirelei. She was intelligent and brave and kind. More importantly, she understood him in ways that no one else ever had. The problem was that marrying Lirelei would give Earth no political advantages. The other Zephyrians considered her defective. Her limited telepathy made her an outcast in her own society. Choosing her would be seen as a romantic mistake that hurt Earth's interests. Marcus found Lirelei sitting by a crystal fountain. She was alone, as usual. Her silver plates caught the moonlight and made her look like a living statue. Congratulations on your success, Lirelei said when she saw him. I heard about the marriage offers. The Vorthan Prime Daughter is considered very beautiful. The Crystalline Shard Bearer is said to be incredibly wise. Is that what you think I should do? Marcus asked. Accept one of those offers? Lirelei was quiet for a moment. It would be logical. You could help your species gain great power and influence. But what do you think I want to do? I think. Lirelei hesitated. I think you should follow your heart. That seems to be what humans do best. Marcus sat down beside her on the crystal bench. Then I need to tell you something important. Lirelei's plates began to shift colors. She could sense his emotions, and they were very strong. I have been thinking about human customs, Marcus said. About how we choose our life partners. Other species base their choices on genetics or politics or telepathic compatibility. But humans choose based on connection. We choose people who make us happy, who understand us, who make us want to be better. That is a beautiful custom, Lirelei said softly. I want to follow that custom now, Marcus said. He turned to face her directly. Lirelei, I have fallen in love with you. Not because it would help my species or because you have useful abilities. I love you because of who you are. Because you are brave and kind and brilliant. Because you see the world in ways that amaze me. Because when I am with you, I feel like the best version of myself. Liralay's crystal plates were shifting rapidly through dozens of colors. Marcus sighed. I do not understand. You could have any of those diplomatic marriages. You could help Earth gain power and influence. I do not want power or influence, Marcus said. I want you. I want to build a life together based on choice and love, not obligation or advantage. Liralay stood up and walked a few steps away. Her emotional telepathy was overwhelming her with Marcus's feelings. She had never experienced anything like the pure, selfless love he was projecting. In my society, Liralay said slowly, damaged individuals like me are assigned partners out of duty. No one chooses us. We are considered fortunate if someone agrees to tolerate our flaws. You are not damaged, Marcus said firmly. You are extraordinary. Your differences make you special, not broken. Liralay turned back to him. Her crystal plates had settled into a soft silver glow. Are you saying that you want me to be your life partner? Even though I cannot give you political advantages? Even though my own people consider me defective? That is exactly what I am saying, Marcus replied. I am asking you to marry me not despite who you are, but because of who you are. Liralay stared at him in complete shock. The concept was so foreign to her experience that she could barely process it. Someone was choosing her voluntarily. Someone saw her differences as gifts rather than flaws. Someone wanted to build a future with her based on love rather than obligation. You're really choosing me as your life partner? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Marcus said with a smile. If you will have me. Tears began to flow down Liralay's face. In Zephyrian culture, tears were considered a sign of mental instability. But Marcus had explained that humans cried when they felt strong emotions, both happy and sad. I have dreamed of this, Liralay said, but I never thought it could be real. I never thought anyone would choose me. I am choosing you, Marcus said. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because I cannot imagine my life without you. Liralay threw her arms around Marcus. For the first time in her life, she felt truly wanted and valued. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I want to be your life partner. As they held each other in the crystal garden, both of them knew that this choice would change everything. Not just for them, but for the entire galaxy. Marcus had chosen love over politics, and that choice would inspire others to question the rigid traditions that had governed galactic society for thousands of years. But in that moment, they only cared about each other. Two beings from different worlds had found something precious and rare, unconditional love based on choice rather than obligation. The announcement of Marcus and Liralay's engagement sent shockwaves through the galactic community. News traveled quickly between star systems, and the reactions were intense. Many aliens were confused. Why would the human ambassador choose a defective Zephyrian when he could have married into power and influence? The Vorthan Collective sent diplomatic messages expressing their disappointment. The crystalline elders questioned whether humans understood the concept of logical decision-making, but other reactions were different. On dozens of worlds, individual aliens began to question their own society's mating customs. If a human could choose love over advantage, why could they not do the same? Marcus and Liralay spent the weeks before their wedding traveling to different planets. They were officially conducting diplomatic missions, but their real purpose was to demonstrate what their relationship represented. On Vorthan Prime, they met a young female who had been assigned a mate based on genetic compatibility. She was miserable because she felt no connection to her partner, but Vorthan law required her to accept the assignment. What if I refused? She asked Liralay privately. What if I chose someone I actually cared about? Then you would be following your heart, Liralay replied. There is no greater courage than that. On the crystalline homeworld, They encountered an elder who had lived for 5,000 years. He had never experienced what humans call love because crystalline beings form partnerships based purely on shared intellectual interests. "Do you truly feel happiness when you are together?" the elder asked Marcus. "More than I ever thought possible," Marcus replied. "Love makes everything better. Food tastes better, colors look brighter, problems seem easier to solve." "Fascinating," the elder said. "Perhaps there are forms of connection we have not explored." On Aquan colonies, they met soldiers who had never considered that they could choose their own partners. The military assigned mates based on strategic considerations. But after seeing Marcus and Lirelei together, some Aquan warriors began to wonder if there might be better ways to find companionship. The most dramatic changes happened on Zephyr Prime itself. Lirelei's engagement to Marcus had elevated her status, but more importantly, it had given other defective Zephyrians hope. Aka, young male with weak telepathy, approached Lirelei during a public appearance. "Your Highness," he said nervously, "do you think someone like me could ever find a partner who truly wanted to be with me?" "I know you can," Lirelei said warmly. "Your differences make you special. The right person will see that." Word spread through the underground communities of Zephyrians whose telepathy was considered inadequate. For the first time in their lives, they began to believe that they could find love and acceptance. High Counselor Thyron watched these developments with growing concern. "This human influence is disrupting our social order," he told the Triumvirate Council. "People are abandoning their assigned roles and making emotional decisions. But crime rates are decreasing," another council member pointed out. "Depression levels are dropping. Productivity is actually increasing in many sectors." "Because people are happier," Lirelei explained during a council session. "When individuals feel valued and loved, they contribute more to society. Forced compliance creates resentment. Voluntary cooperation creates enthusiasm." The wedding ceremony took place on a neutral station at the edge of Triumvirate space. Representatives from hundreds of species attended, making it the largest diplomatic gathering in galactic history. Marcus wore a modified Earth military dress uniform. Lirelei wore traditional Zephyrian ceremonial robes, but the crystal patterns had been redesigned to include human symbols of love and commitment. The ceremony itself combined traditions from multiple cultures. They exchanged vows in both human and Zephyrian styles. Marcus promised to love Lirelei for who she was, not who others expected her to be. Lirelei promised to choose Marcus every day, not just once. "Today we witness something new," said the ceremonial official, a respected elder from a neutral species. "A union based not on genetics or politics or social pressure, but on pure choice and affection. This may be the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization." When Marcus and Lirelei kissed at the end of the ceremony, something unexpected happened. Lirelei's emotional telepathy was amplified by the intensity of the moment. For just a few seconds, every telepath in the station felt what pure, unconditional love actually felt like. The effect was profound. Many aliens had never experienced such emotions before. Tears flowed freely among species that had not cried for millennia. Even the normally reserved crystalline elders seemed moved in the months that followed. The changes accelerated. The Vorthan Collective began allowing some individuals to choose their own mates. The Aquan Federation started including emotional compatibility in their military partner assignments. Even some crystalline colonies experimented with relationships based on affection rather than just intellectual compatibility. Marcus and Lirelei established a new diplomatic protocol called Emotional Resonance Theory. It was based on the idea that understanding feelings was just as important as understanding thoughts. Lirelei's unique telepathic abilities made her the perfect ambassador for this new approach. They traveled throughout the galaxy, helping different species communicate not just what they thought, but what they truly felt. Wars were prevented when diplomats finally understood the real emotions driving conflicts. Trade disputes were resolved when negotiators learned to address the underlying fears and hopes of all parties. On their first anniversary, Marcus and Lirelei returned to the Crystal Garden where Marcus had proposed. The palace had changed significantly. Instead of the rigid, symmetrical layout, the gardens now included areas where plants grew in more natural patterns. The gardeners asked if they could try the human approach, Lirelei explained. They wanted to see what controlled chaos actually looked like. The results were beautiful. Crystal trees still grew in organized sections, but wild earth flowers had been planted between them. The paths curved and wandered instead of running in straight lines. It was less perfect, but more alive. "It looks like our relationship," Marcus said with a smile. "Two different styles creating something new and beautiful." "I have something to tell you," Lirelei said, her crystal plates shifting to a warm golden color. "My doctors confirmed it yesterday. I am pregnant." Marcus felt tears spring to his eyes. Their child would be the first human Zephyrian hybrid in history. The baby would grow up in a galaxy where love and choice were becoming more important than genetics and politics. "Our child will never have to wonder if someone could choose to love them," Marcus said. "They will grow up knowing that the best relationships are built on choice, not obligation." Years later, historians would mark Marcus and Lirelei's wedding as the turning point that began what they called the emotional revolution. Across the galaxy, beings began to prioritize love, friendship, and personal happiness alongside duty and social order. The rigid caste systems that had dominated galactic civilization for thousands of years began to soften. Individuals gained the right to choose their own paths, their own partners, and their own definitions of success. Not every species embraced these changes completely. But even the most traditional societies began to acknowledge that emotions and personal choice had value. The galaxy became more diverse, more creative, and more peaceful as billions of beings learned to choose love over fear. Marcus and Lirelei's greatest achievement was not preventing a war or solving a diplomatic crisis. It was showing the galaxy that the human capacity for love and choice could transform entire civilizations, and it all started when a human ambassador looked at a princess considered defective by her own people and saw only beauty, intelligence, and endless possibilities.